Our dear subscribers, I'm happy today to share with you our next interview. I highly recommend to everyone now put this video on pause, go to take some tea or coffee or grab something cold, get some chips and make yourself comfortable because this interview is going to be very interesting, very hot. And I want to welcome today our special guest all the way from Boston, how they say, Ryan Sullivan, CEO of the Ratchet Ventures. Hi, Ryan.
Mir, good morning or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And thanks for having me on today. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Uh, Ryan, I can give you many of compliments and telling to people many great stories how good you were when we shared with you working in the same company. But I think that better if you present yourself, otherwise it's going to sound too sweet.
Sure. So, yes, my name is Ryan Sullivan. I recently started a consulting go-to-market fractional head of sales consulting company called Ratchet Ventures. And Mir, obviously, we work together at a transportation visibility company, but I've spent the last 15 years at growth stage technology and supply chain companies, typically coming in the early stages and helping to try and build process and foundation to allow founders and companies to scale up to the next level of growth. So, we had a really exciting journey from roughly 10 to 25 million in revenue at a company over a year process. And, that's what I'm excited about. And I'm excited about being on winning teams with good people like yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. We have some discussion before our interview, and we know what we are going to discuss with you and what topic we are going to take up. But before to go to our topics, I want to ask you, how is your feeling now about the market? Because we see every day that people are opening new companies, creating the startups, getting seed A, B, C. But in your opinion, through all these 15 years to working from young startups to make them to successful companies, joining the sales teams, is it enough or market has more shares to give to the new ideas and new startups?
Well, I mean, I think for great entrepreneurs that have a problem that they're solving that's very significant, there's always going to be, money and room in the market for companies like that to come in. However, it is tremendously harder right now than it's been over the last 5 years. I think whether it's from a venture market standpoint or from a transportation market standpoint, with inflated dollars here in the US and a lot of focus around that, cash is hard to get, very expensive right now with interest rates and the fact that it's an election year, and that we're dealing with this roller coaster of in COVID, out of COVID, what is our new norm? I think that it's certainly harder right now. And that really is the foundation as to why I started my company. My belief is that there is still money and opportunities to build and grow a company and get funded if that is your goal. However, I think you need to get the company a lot farther before you're able to get that funding. Where 10 years ago, if you had a great idea, somebody could just write you a check. I think now there's higher requests of proof points of how you're succeeding in scaling to get the same money. So in the past, the goal for a company was raise a bit of money, scrap your way to $1 million in revenue. And at that point, you're able to unlock additional funding. Whereas today, it's more, how profitable is that $1 million in revenue? how scalable is that $1 million in revenue? And I think if founders don't have the answers for those questions, it's a lot harder world to navigate if you're a CEO.
I want to as well to share with you some of my feelings, and I want to hear your expert opinion about it. I see that in the early stages, there was more like, I don't want to mention the names of these phone companies, but in the beginning, it was like people are expecting every year from some phone or some mobile companies that they get with every new year something new, something very exceptional, revolutionary solutions. But in a certain moment, it's became like to make better what already exists. And if we compare now to this situation with the, let's say, mobile phones, it's basically many of people when you say that my company, my startup can offer you some more efficiency, more this, more that, and etc. They say, yeah, but we basically do simple job. We are just taking from point A to point B, and we have already all these softwares, and we have all these bookkeeping programs and the real-time visibility there is. In your opinion, this is what is now the trend to bring something new to market, or do it better than the existing companies, or looking for the new niches, you know?
I think it's all about what is the niche. If you could take any if you take mobile phones, for example, if my job is to be a truck driver, for example, maybe there are services within, maybe my phone could track the temperature of, the location that I'm in. So that would be a product offering geared toward a very specific niche that could tell you potentially when I'm in the cab and when I'm not. So that is more, if you think about it, products through that lens. I don't believe that's coming. It could be, I have no idea, but it's more the concept that a great product A versus great product B, who's better, it's really dependent on the audience. And I think we're going to continue to see companies build products specific toward a niche that has a large enough TAM, or total addressable market. The other thing that I see is there's all this talk about AI. Everybody's talking about AI. We all have our ChatGPT accounts. We're all an expert in everything if you give us enough time to prepare and ask ChatGPT all of the questions. So I saw a really interesting stat yesterday on LinkedIn that 80% of venture dollars are being put into what's considered AI first companies. And the reason that I think that's interesting is because so much technology in the last 10 years, we've had this technology revolution. It's depending on where you are in the world, the level of revolution may be different, but on a global economy, the transportation, supply chain industry has had a ton of tech interjected into it. Where I see AI fitting into all this is it comes down to efficiencies. So, what the companies, if you have two companies that are selling the same product, similar price, and it's great, the company that's able to leverage AI to simplify tasks that they have people doing today are going to be able to innovate through a cost standpoint. So that's really one of the areas we're going to see a lot of differentiation. The companies that have been able to implement this to take over basic tasks are going to have less operating cost. Therefore, they're going to have less cost they need to pass through to their customer. And so I really believe we're going to see some significant advancements in driving costs down through these efficiencies that will impact the end customer.
with mentioning the artificial intelligence, you open the Pandora box, but I'm going to close for some time this box. We will back to it a bit later. But I know, and I'm sure that you would agree with me, that product itself, number of investments and good idea is only the part, the most proven factor of the every startup is your revenue. So it's very important who is in your sales teams and how you train your sales team, what tools they have. In your opinion, what are the traits you see in top performance salespeople vs bottom performers?
Sure. So like the typical answer for this question, I think most people would say curious salespeople and salespeople with good relationships are what they would view as the top performing salespeople. My answer is slightly different. To me, resourcefulness is the top quality that I see in top performing salespeople. When I say resourcefulness, what I mean is they are curious. They're curious enough to understand how their customer operates, so they can truly make and they are a trusted advisor, so they can make recommendations that are meaningful. And it doesn't feel salesy because you've done your work to genuinely figure out where opportunities are. But then the next phase of that is, well, my product, I then have to figure out how my product fits in to solve that problem. And, you run an early stage company, Mir. We don't have it all figured out at every company. We're all doing the best we can and trying to learn. So those that are resourceful, they've been curious enough to identify the problem, and then they don't need every piece of information handed to them. They're going to go out and get it done. If they need to bring a partner in, they're going to be aware enough of what the problem is that they can find the right partner and bring it in together into a solution. They're going to be asked questions that maybe you've never thought of at your company. And, those that are resourceful just have a way of getting it done. And so I think that's the top quality or trait that I see. And I think the other side of it is just they're competitive. They want to win. They're willing to do the work. And lastly, I think it comes down to this term we hear a lot in transportation and supply chain: relationships. And I want to add value. And to me, a relationship is not just being liked. We like one another, Mir, but we may not do business together just because we like one another. We would do business together because we believe that we can add value to one another's lives. And value is not just a good time, or maybe it's a good time, but there's a business value that I'm going to make your life easier or bring positive results to you. And I have to have that same feeling back from you. So if you think about relationships like that versus just a handshake, I mean, to me, that is something that the top salespeople I've worked with all look for and look to leverage. They don't want to just meet you. They want to find you, and maybe you don't have a problem I can solve today. Well, if I can't solve it, I'm going to go and find Mir, who maybe can solve it, and make an introduction. It doesn't mean there's anything in it for me. I just operate under the belief that if I do the right thing by you consistently, in the end, it's going to work out for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you. It's an awesome answer. But let's make this topic more wide. And we face it with you many of life experiences. And I guess we know exactly how most of the time new startups hire the people in the sales team. It is not necessarily should be sales manager or sales director, but how they create a sales team. So in my opinion, please correct me if I'm wrong or add some additional comments. It's basically they looking for some people who already has experience in the same industry and who can take with himself some potential customers on board just for to accelerate and boost the revenue. The second, they trying to surround themselves with the industry experts who can introduce them to some big fishes or to some, I don't know, whatever, retailers, manufacturers, airlines, whatever. And the third category, what people are looking as new startups, they're trying to get on board very motivated people. If we talk about these three categories, and if you agree with me that there is basically three most common categories, through all these years, from whom you think they can get most of the benefits?
I'll start with the one that I think that I don't to I agree that it's how people hire. I don't agree that it's the best way people hire. Um, the idea of hiring people that are going to bring a book of business is very, very common. You're right about that. In my experience, that is the most likely one to not succeed. In my experience, those that are marketing a book of business, if they've had more than one job in the last 5 years, they've already marketed that book of business. They've already called in many favors. And, because you have a relationship doesn't necessarily mean it makes financial sense for if you really have a relationship and you really want to do what's best by that person, buying your product just because you jump to a new company may not be what's best for them. So I do agree that that is one of the more common ways, but I view the ability to be, like, to your point on being an industry expert and thought leader. If you have done that, then it should be very easy for you to find and build new relationships. So I would view industry thought leadership as significantly more important. And I personally try not to hire for that reason of they're going to just bring all their customers in. Because if I do that, even if it works, if you leave, are you just taking all of your customers with you? So it's a fine line to balance, but I view the industry expertise and being a trusted advisor significantly more important than the the hope that you're just going to be able to flip all of your existing customers to my company.
But how about selection of the motivated people?
It's for me, it's one of the non-negotiable areas when we look at hard skills and soft skills. I view emotional intelligence and motivation as two factors that people have to have. However, something I've learned, because I certainly am not perfect and I had a lot of hair, I shouldn't be this bald for how old I am. uh, I would say that is something that I had to learn. Is I'm a very motivated person, and I've been responsible for people that are older than me for quite a long time. And when people used to say work-life balance to me, truthfully, Mir, I'll tell you, I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but my first thought would be like, oh, this person's lazy. I wouldn't say that, but that's what I would be thinking. And it wasn't till I had the perspective of having children and getting married to really understand what that meant, because I was so motivated. So what I had to learn is, yes, motivation is important, but every salesperson has different goals. Some people just want to make enough money to have work-life balance, and they'll be at 80 or 90% of their targets every year or quarter. And that's okay. Like, there's a place for those people. But I think when it comes to sales management, it really comes down to having an understanding as to what that salesperson wants. Do they want to be a millionaire? Do they want to be promoted to a VP? Do they want to just, do they want to work to live or live to work? And there's a place for both types of people, and everyone should work for a company that has leadership that cares about what it is you want to do, because not everybody wants to be a millionaire and work 100 hours a week. Some people want to work 30 hours a week and get by, and they view wealth as being able to spend, additional time with their loved ones.
Yeah, they do not want to be like we, losing the hair. So
That's right.
we are with you, I think, for till the rest of our life, bonded to logistics and transportation. You are living and operating in the, I do not afraid to say it, in the world center of all innovations and the new trends. What are the trends you are seeing now in US and outside of the US, and where is the new opportunities for the transportation or the transportation tech?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll start with one that is kind of related to how you and I even work together. So within the IO, so for those that don't know, Mir and I work together at an IoT company focused on tracking temperature, humidity, shock, location of in-transit products with devices that went on pallets primarily. Um, this business has been around for 20 years, tracking temperature. What I'm seeing is there are a tremendous amount of software companies that are coming out that are attacking this market to make it more secure and more actionable and operating with more data. So, for example, I'm seeing companies focused on the security of IoT devices. And I heard a stat the other day, 75% of all IoT devices have never had their password changed. So there's a big hacking opportunity that's coming. So I'm seeing security companies popping up focused on, managing and protecting IoT. I'm seeing companies do contextualization. So meaning like if I get a light alert on a in-transit shipment, it means my door is open. If I'm an operator, what do I do? Do I call the police? Do I call the carrier? And then, big data and reporting. Like I know that there are retailers that are getting temperature data, and they only use it to determine whether they reject a load or not. Whereas big data really should be able to tell us you stink at this lane, or this carrier always has a problem, or this vendor always has a problem, and being able to save not a single shipment, but leveraging big data to build plans to save hundreds or thousands of shipments. So I'm seeing a lot of interesting things around that. I've been very interested in the final mile delivery and distribution element of the world. I mean, we've seen that change a ton here in the US when you think about, I mean, there's dozens of companies now, but if you just think about like the concept of Uber and how the movement of product, how many people are truck drivers in their Mini Cooper or Honda Accord that didn't exist 10 years ago. So I think the pace at which through e-commerce that customers expect products is continuing to accelerate. And that creates a lot of unique problems for companies. So we're seeing scenarios where companies are selling massive warehouses in the middle of a country to outsource third-party warehousing at different places that are closer to customers, and using speed of delivery as a differentiator. I would not be my sources that are investors that are focused on this place are suggesting that we really are not as far away from drone deliveries as it may feel, and that there are pilots and tests running today, and there are companies popping up focused on this. So those are some of the things that I've seen, and I think companies' willingness to, well, there's one other problem through all of this. If we go back to what we started talking about, is the expectations of how much harder it is right now to secure funding. We're sort of saying this hand says you need to do a lot more with less and get more focused on tangible results in the short term. And then on this hand, we're saying AI is coming, the world is changing, there will be drones delivering packages in the next 10 years for you. So you need to think for the future. If you're not thinking with the future in mind, you're going to be displaced. So I think that's really what's hard in the world right now, is technology has just moved at such a rapid pace that you not only need to do more with less, but you also need to be building toward a world that we're all guessing what it's going to look like in 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with you that e-commerce is now growing very fast. I'm like the one who has a very close relationship to air freight. I can confirm from my side, if I read all these articles and world statistics, I see that e-commerce in the air freight is just taking the big piece of cake. You know, it is mostly, but there is.
Mir,
Yes.
on that topic, the air freight, I'm glad you said that. So I heard about something interesting the other day. I don't know if it's happening overseas or you're seeing it as well, but so the big airlines in the US have basically gone out and invested. I'm aware of two companies that they've invested in, and they are allocating, they have guaranteed 25% of cargo space on passenger planes that they are giving to these two companies. And the idea is, because it opens up so much more capacity and so much more flight volume, that they're basically saying, don't store tons of product in the US. They're saying we can get products anywhere within 3 days. So why burn all that cash in inventory, have it sit in a warehouse that you don't know if it's going to sell or not, and basically get your products, virtually any amount of products anywhere in 3 days. Is that something that you've come across?
Yes, but obviously we have to realize that consumers' habits are changing rapidly. If When I was the child, I was waiting for the Christmas whole year, you know, and or I was waiting for something for which was promised me by end of my school year. So I was just waiting. But now people want to have it now and also very quickly. But this was the moment when you can find a solution for it. You can have it in your warehouse or the distribution center. But now, next to the changing habits, we have also the change of tastes. People wants to have every time something new. I can tell you, for example, as I said, there's a joke in the flower business. If you take some nice slave for the flower bouquet and you make a good design and you order it in China and they ship it to you by the container, by the time of the arrival, the customer tastes may change, and then you have
Yeah.
all container with something what you don't need. So yes, obviously the air freight is now going to be something new, especially you know about all these issues with the sea freight. So it's all time to time, and who is going to get this horse first, going to win the race. But if we take this topic, you know that it takes some time before people get used to something and like get used to the chat GPT or get used to the WhatsApp or the Zoom. It's all take times. But I see the clear tendency that people finally learned what means 3PL logistics. And when you say 4PL, 5PL, they looking at you with big eyes and saying, what are you talking about? So it is, I see that still 3PL services are very powerful in the modern world of the logistics and the transportation. Can you share your tips for those companies who is selling the 3PL services?
Yeah. So some things that I see work that many people don't do would be domestically here, at least in the US for 3PL services. A lot of times a 3PL will be running a lane for a customer and they have density in that lane. They have great relationships with carriers. They're able to operate profitably, but they're not going a step further and also calling on the consignee. So I'm already running trucks to their facility. So in theory, I can get a truck that's unloading. I can operate profitably in that area. So like that is one of the hacks that I see the 3PLs doing, especially in a world where we're, so focused on profitability. Um, so that would be one. The other area, and it comes back to trusted advisor and sort of industry expert, is it's harder to get. Everybody wants new business right now. That's the big focus and where people are struggling. To me, if you have become a thought leader and an industry expert, then you've built up connections. Think about LinkedIn. I have more luck going on LinkedIn to people I kind of know and seeing who they're mutually connected with and asking for a call, doing networking regularly so that I can make introductions for them and I can go to them and say, hey, you're connected to this person. We have built a relationship that transmits value to both, both of us are getting value out of it. Being able to network your way to get referred to the right person right now is the key because there's so much spam. It's better for you in Europe, I hope, and Asia with the, some of the regulations on cold emailing that we don't have here in the States. But inboxes are flooded, dozens of LinkedIn messages per day trying to sell you all the stuff you don't need. People are trying to sell me franchises of like McDonald's on LinkedIn every day. So I think your ability to network, to become a thought leader and find ways that you can help people and with the juice that are able to help you. And if you're good at that, that is a much more valuable skill in the modern world than being able to send mass emails, because that is another area that I know you want to come back to it, but the blasting mass emails and making 1,000 phone calls a day are the things that AI will cut first. So if you're not good at being a human and networking and find ways to be referred in, you're going to struggle in the future.
It's a great tip, Ryan. I do believe that a lot of people should take it in their own consideration. But from another side, you have a pressure from the investors and chasing around your network and getting the good contracts and trying to explain that your product is right for them. It takes time, but investors, they are different. There is some investors who came from the same industry. There is some investors who is just giving money to 100 projects in the same time and just watching who will survive at the end of the day and who is not. But there is also not demand and not need, but there is an order, I do believe. I want to use this word, very hard word, the order to take the phone and call, to make a mass mailing, to shake everyone and shake for the attention. How you see this? But this is also the way which is classically used for the sales.
So working hard and making I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be working hard or making calls or sending emails. I'm just saying that I think that those, if those are not thoughtful and they're not human, then they're not that valuable. So to me, I view growth as kind of like indirect success. For example, if when I started as a head of sales at the company that we worked together at, the goal was drive revenue, do it quick. What did I do? I started by focusing on our systems and our messaging. And it's like, well, that's not driving revenue, but it allows you a framework to start driving revenue. The same is true for what we're talking about, like with investors, for example. If there's pressure to make calls and do something to make something happen, it doesn't necessarily mean making that call direct to the customer exclusively. Only doing that is the best way to get your result. Everybody operates differently. Like you're probably never going to cold call me on my cell phone and ever get me to buy anything from you. And some people don't like that because I am a sales leader and I have teams that have to do that. But it comes down to the fact that we all operate differently. If you want to talk to me and you go to my friend Mir and you pitch Mir and you say to Mir, is there anybody that you think could benefit from this? And he says, oh, I think Ryan could. And Mir connects us. That's something I'm going to take. If you message me on LinkedIn, that could be a place that we engage. So, but everybody's different. It's not one size fits all. And I think we need to use different channels and mediums and be creative as to how we get to people. And we need to understand just that it's never been so competitive to get in front of a person. And I have an email account with 70,000 unread emails in one inbox. I'm embarrassed to say that, but that is a true statement on my personal email account. So and it's just because I just get so much junk that at some point it was like, I do need to get that organized. But so everybody's different. There is not a one size fits all. Investors, it's great to have industry expertise. If you can, it's also great to have people that think differently than you and will challenge you. And I think it just comes down to making sure that you're solving a problem that's big enough that we can get conversations to happen around it.
If we go through this topic about giving some tips for the new startups and even the existing young companies, for myself, I can divide the companies in three parts, and I in advance want to apologize to people if it's going to hurt them. I see there's three type of the companies. One type of the companies who is giving the promises. They see the market trend and they say real-time visibility. Then next morning you see on the website, we are the true leaders in the real-time visibility. So they have no idea what is the real-time visibility and their customers have no idea what it's all about. The second part of the companies is now just newborn companies who is promising to solve all the problems with the artificial intelligence. I have seen in LinkedIn a great picture when the building company asked them to ask Chat GPT to build another floor of the building. And but I do agree with you that people are key to the success, not the Chat GPT. Chat GPT is just a tool. People should not forget that this we are the human being, and it's all business related on the human being relationship. But there's a third part of the companies who is really trying to bring some new solutions on the market. So with your allowance, I'm going to call them a transportation tech or the logistics tech company. From your point of view, through all these years' experience, and now being the head of the ventures company, what is your tip for them? How they should survive without losing the focus?
Well, focus is the key word. I mean, it's kind of two different questions because one, the first, I tend to agree with the buckets of types of companies that you outlined, but I think marketing and customer perception is different in most companies than what is actually happening. So from a marketing standpoint, I guess from either standpoint, I think it comes down to having a mission that solves a big problem that you genuinely believe in, and not just having it be words written on a wall, but having it be something that when you have a hard decision and you come up with an answer, you're looking at that mission and you're saying, does my answer support this mission? And the other side of it would be having real focus as to who is your ideal customer. And I agree, there's been a lot of companies and continues to be a lot of companies that are marketing just whatever the buzzwords are. In the US, for the last 10 years, companies have been saying they use AI. Have they really? Their blockchain technology and AI, like most companies were not doing that. Let's be real. And that's how they marketed themselves. So I think those things are starting to be possible. However, I don't think that is the answer. That can be a part of the answer, but it still requires great humans to have a successful company. And as far as, so I don't know if I answered your question entirely, but
It's
did
just,
I?
yeah, it's a focus.
Yeah.
Focus and keep doing what are you doing today. You are now in your daily base focus on the support the startups and show them the right way and tell them how to be careful and how to uh, sometimes change the focus or let them to see the market problems from another point of view. And of course, there is the difference between the companies who have a, significant growth and some companies who is not doing well. And the difference, of course, is clearly seen in the year quarterly reports, in the number of customers, in the digits, red digits or black digits. But the question is, you see more than only this difference. You see why it happens. What can be your tips and how you can get more beyond of this vision only of the red and black digits? What is the difference between the successful and not successful companies?
The founder, usually, the founder, I would say, is the biggest differentiator and I'm talking, well, the founder or the CEO, depending on the stage of the company. I mean, my response is going to be geared more toward early stage companies because that's, more of where I spend my time. But like we talked about focus on the last question. I mean, the number one thing that I'm doing is when I work with a company, it's about getting them to cut their focus. Um, there are companies, most companies have too many priorities. So they're not even priorities. They got a long list of all the things they're gonna be and all the things they're gonna do and all the customers with varying different use cases they're going to support. I'm of the belief that I would rather be great at two things than be okay at 10 things. So I think the founders that are able to do that and lock in and focus the company and their resources is the number one differentiator in early stage companies. But being a CEO is a hard job because that focus and those responsibilities change over time. Like, and we saw it together at the company that we worked at is very different managing the priorities and resources of a 40-person company versus a 140-person company. And so I think that CEO or founder needs to really maintain focus. And then it comes down to people and the team and hiring people that are smarter and more experienced than you in different areas and being humble enough to be wrong, but being art intelligent enough to challenge these people that know more than they do about an industry to get the best out of them. And then ensuring that there is alignment throughout the company, because that's one of the biggest challenges as you're scaling up. You now have all these people that are smarter than you that run each different group. And if they disagree and they're both supposed to be, the expert, maintaining that discipline to say, we're going to stay focused and we're going to, this is our mission and the problem that we're solving, and, getting answers, that support that. And then being agile enough to pivot. Like, we're gonna run into closed doors. I was a founder of a tech company at one point, and we started out building. We were going to allow you to gamble on Xbox games for play Xbox for money. Basically, was the initial idea, and it ended up being a way, and we were going to sell it to the gamers. It ended up being we were selling it to mobile developers that wanted to monetize free games. So, I mean, you need to do, there's a lot of pivoting, that goes into a company getting to their final product. And so, you need to be agile, but you need to be focused and disciplined.
I hear the doorbell, and I guess there is a queue of the people who wants to argue with us about the priorities, and they want us to give them the lecture, paid lecture about how to prioritize your tasks, and they have all their own vision. I do agree with you, and I fully support every your word. That it's very tough and very difficult to make your priorities, because once you made your priorities as a founder of or a CEO or like a board member, you always have something new what show up and tells you that this is priority as well, so
Yep.
it is very difficult. But in your daily job, how do you approach building systems or processes for growth? I think it's very important to hear for your new potential customers.
Yeah. Well, on the priorities, like even in my real life, outside of anything professional, I'm a very goal oriented person. So at any given point, I have my top three priorities for the year, and I leave myself a fourth spot because I know that things are going to come up and things are going to change. And the way that I'm thinking today is going to be different than the way I'm thinking in a month. But so I commit to in my own, forget about my business, in my own personal life, I commit to my top 3 goals or priorities. I share them with my wife so that we have alignment and we know sort of what we're working toward together, but I leave that flexibility to, add one. And then I get the goals from her. So her goals, so we can sort of be in support of what one another are trying to achieve. I think that is a similar tool for priority setting for businesses. And it ensures that you have a measuring stick that says, was I successful or was I not? And you have alignment with those around you to ensure that everybody's working toward the same things. In terms of approaching building process and systems, I believe that it is the company's responsibility to identify who the ideal customer is, to understand the personas and who cares about the problem you're solving, and to be building products and training to have, if that is figured out truly, then you have the ability to hire less industry expertise. You can hire people that think a little bit differently. You can hire people that are more junior potentially because you've enabled them to be successful. And I think that, and not only have you enabled them to be successful, but if you really know that, the answers to your ideal customer, then you have people that you could just talk to that will tell you what they want built. You're not guessing. And then you can develop that niche where if I'm not talking to my customers, if I do not have my ideal customer profile truly understood, how could I possibly build the best product for a niche? It's hard. So, I mean, I think that is the lens that I see as a starting point for any go-to-market or product activities is, we really need to be pretty sure as to who has the highest propensity to buy this, because there's only 3 ways to increase revenue. 1, you get more opportunities. 2, you sell larger deals. Or 3 is you convert at a higher percentage. Those are the only 3 ways to drive revenue. So if you understand your ideal customer, you've enabled sales to have messaging and a point of view that is valuable to a particular audience, and you've told them more or less what types of companies they are and who the people are. So you're going to get more opportunities. The product is going to be more well aligned, or services will be more well aligned to that person and type of company. So you should convert more. And because the product, you're selling to all the same types of customers now, people aren't asking you for 1,000 different things that, a grower in Australia wants something different than a tech company in the US wants something different than a transportation company in Mexico. So in addition to those, improving the number of deals and deal size, you're now building a product because you're getting all the same types of requests. You're building products or services that get better actually with each customer that you bring on, because you're adding functionality or services that are beneficial to the rest of your customers. So giving that opportunity to sell bigger deals. So to me, that is the starting point for any go-to-market footprint.
I hope and I wish that many companies and new startups will put in their budgeting the very important expense to buy some advices from Ryan Sullivan, because you are not only focusing on the well-known things, but you are also explaining why it should work like this. Because people see it, in my opinion, sometimes not so deep as you do, and I do it as well in your shadow, like about the opportunities. So they believe that the having the product is already opportunity, which is wrong. There is
Yeah.
many products which born and dead in the same day. And the opportunity is of course, your potential customers. Customers are willing to buy any product which will make their life easier, secure, and profitable. And of course, I fully agree in everything what you say, and I really and highly recommend to get an opportunity to get some paid support from the Ryan, because it's going to be very, very useful. I have my favorite saying, which I'm constantly repeat. It's better to lose with clever person than to fight with the idiot. So it is, and I think that we are now discussing with you many things what people are not really thinking about. They believe that I have idea, and that's it. But the having idea is only not even the beginning. It's just the idea.
How
But
many people have had an idea, the idea for Amazon, the idea for Apple, the idea for a cell phone? The idea is the easy part. It's even all those companies, somebody thought of all this stuff well before these companies were ever built. So like, uh, do stuff you're passionate about, and don't be afraid to fail. Because the execution and going for it is the hard part, but it's what makes all the difference.
Ryan, one more question to you as to the expert who lives and based in the US, and especially in Boston. And I see that Boston is a kind of motherland of the all great logistics tech ideas. Uh, there is an opinion in many parts of the world, and especially in the overseas here, that all these tech issues and all these new ideas and new startups, they are mostly for the people who is the white collar. I use this definition: white collar, blue collar. It's like white collar is people who is sitting on the comfortable chair in the office, and the blue collar is the people who is on the field. From your perspective, how open are warehouse people, warehouse staff, and truck drivers, people who is working in the distribution centers? What is for them all these new tech ideas, startups, AIs, or it's mostly like a fun for the people who is sitting in the office and looking to beautiful digits and growing lines? How tech can be also useful for them? Is there many new startups who is focused on this group of the people, on the blue collars?
Yes, there are. I mean, I think tech is too broad to like have it it's going to help blue collar people, or it's not. There are plenty of blue and white collar people that are going to have negative and positive impacts from like artificial intelligence. I think within some of the stuff that's interesting that I see, that's focused more on the blue collar folks, would be, I'm seeing a lot of systems and tools around digitizing businesses that have traditionally been uh, more blue collar businesses. I think we're seeing businesses leverage like visibility, for example, to be able to not so much replace people, but to allow them the information to do their job more efficiently. Um, so there's definitely tech that is looking to erase blue collar jobs, and there is definitely tech that is focused on allowing blue collar people or employees to um, have a better life. So it's not really a one size fits all, unfortunately. But I think there's benefits and risks to everybody with what technology will look like in the future.
So, with your allowance, I want to a bit summarize our interview, and I'm seeking for your agreement to say that we once again point focus of the people and put their attention on the three main things what they should keep in their mind and focus on it and make their priorities. It's number one, uh, performance is important.
Sure.
Number two is that making the right priorities is the not only the saying, it is something very necessarily should be done by the every CEO and the founder. And number three, surround yourself with the right industry experts and seek for the advices and better pay some cash for the advice than make a mistake and pay off millions. So this is basically my conclusion of our great hour of the conversation. And yeah, Ryan, I want to thank you very much and for all these wonderful sharing ideas. And I hope and I highly recommend to everyone to get in touch with you, and you look more carefully now to your email box because there is now going to be many people who wants to have your advices.
That's why I had to start the company so I could get a new email address and actually see what's coming in. So thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun, Mir, and I I'm a big supporter of you, and so excited to see you doing so well, and thrilled to get to be on here with you.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye.